I loved this video. This racist family got wrecked and it was awesome.
We've all seen this video by now. The brawl on the docks of Alabama's Riverfront Park in Montgomery as several black men came to the rescue of a black riverboat captain who was assaulted by a group of white people after they refused to move their pontoon. The viral moment spurred thousands of memes, songs, and collective black joy.
Yeah, this family is never going to be able to live down their racism. It's awesome. I love it.
But why? Montgomery was the first capital of the failed Confederate States of America. It was once one of the largest slave trading communities in the country. Commerce Street, where the enslaved were paraded from what is now known as Riverfront Park to the slave market, was named that for a reason. The city of Montgomery and the state of Alabama were early focal points of the civil rights movement. It's where Rosa Parks refused to yield her seat to a white man, where Martin Luther King Jr.'s house was bombed. And it was 50 miles west in Selma, where a young John Lewis and Hosea Williams led 600 demonstrators on what was supposed to be a peaceful march to Montgomery for voting rights. They were less than a mile into their journey when, just after crossing over the Edmund Pettus Bridge, they were viciously beaten by law enforcement in what became known as Bloody Sunday.
Yeah, because cops are inherently racist and they've done everything they can to keep black people down.
To know that history is to have a better understanding of why a brawl on an Alabama riverfront resonated so deeply with African Americans. Joining me now is the mayor of Montgomery.
What needs to happen is racist people need to be made afraid again. Anytime a racist person is being racist, they just need to get beaten down.
Mayor Stephen Reed. Mayor Reed, thank you very much for coming back to the Saturday show.
Thank you so much for having me.
So, Mayor, what were your thoughts when you first saw that video?
I think when I first saw the video, I was as surprised as everyone, certainly disturbed by it and disappointed by the actions that those who were in the wrong place and doing the wrong thing took to someone who was just doing his job and trying to get them to move out of the way for the safety and security of the patrons who own the riverboat.
Mm-hmm. At least five.
Yeah, these people are just drunk white trash. That's all they are.
People have been charged in the brawl. Are you confident that justice is being served?
Oh, I'm very confident. I think our police chief and our police department have done a great job. The community has been very, very supportive of those who are on the boat, those who live here, those who are able to provide video and eyewitness accounts. All of them have been very helpful. And I think our approach to this has been methodical. It has been very intense, and it's been something where we have left no stone unturned to get to the bottom of this situation.
You know, I outlined the history of your city for viewers who might not know sort of the centrality of Montgomery to the history of Alabama and to the history of the United States. So I'm just wondering, how has this event in your city with that history affected race relations there?
You know, I think race relations here are always a work in progress. I think like much of the nation, we deal with the discord that has been in our political environment, certainly in recent weeks and months and years. That's not helping the situation at all. But I think in this situation, a lot of people saw what happened. They were uncomfortable by it. They were uncomfortable by the racial perception of it. I was uncomfortable by the same thing. And certainly as a black man here, as the first black mayor of the city of Montgomery, you wonder whether or not this is a step back. I think for us, the outrage and the feeling and emotional feelings that we had toward what we saw is something that we channel to make sure that now that we're in positions like mayor and police chief, we can do the right thing. And I think from the community standpoint, it'll be up to us to make sure that one, people realize those who were arrested and committing the assault on the gentleman who was doing his job are not from Montgomery. I don't think it's emblematic of the city, but I do think it speaks to a level of discord that's in the environment, that's in the atmosphere, still around race, not just in Alabama, but again, throughout this country. And there's a lot of work for us to be done, a lot of work for us to do, and a lot more things to be done, whether it be at the grassroots level, at the political level, at the corporate level, throughout, to make sure we're having the conversations and we're not taking steps backward, like you just mentioned, that those who marched across the bridge in Selma to Montgomery and those who led the Montgomery bus boycott really paved the way for us to be here. So we don't want to step back. We don't want to see that regression. We want to make sure that there is a multicultural coalition coming together to push back at the dog whistles, at the bullhorns, and at the outright actions that we see each and every day in this country, because it doesn't take much for us to lose the progress that has been made over decades in this country.
The mayor of Montgomery, Alabama, Stephen Reed, thank you very much for coming to the show this morning.
Thank you.
Joining me now, senior White House correspondent at The Grio and MSNBC contributor April Ryan. April, thank you for coming back to the show. What were your thoughts when you first saw the video of the brawl in Alabama?
Jonathan, I couldn't believe it. I thought about the setting, as you so aptly went through history, and I couldn't believe it. And then I kept seeing other videos coming and coming, different perspectives, different views of where the man who jumped in the water came from, the chair, all sorts of things.
Oh yeah, watching that chick get smashed in the face with the chair was awesome. I love that part.
And then I put my journalistic hat on and started asking questions of lawyers, asking questions of the daughter of the late civil rights leader, Dr. Martin Luther King, Bernice King, who heads up the King Center. All this just weeks before the 60th anniversary of the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom, a nonviolent march from a man who died so violently, who became a martyr, but preached.
Yeah, that part where he just wrecks her in the head with that chair is great. She deserved it. All those people deserve getting any kind of injury they sustained. It's awesome.
Nonviolence. And talking to Dr. Bernice King, she said, you know, generations of frustration. She said this was a oh hell no moment. However, nonviolence is the prescriptive. What does violence get us? And as you see,
Well, violence gets us defense against people committing violence against you. You can't always be nonviolent because when you're dealing with racist people, they don't care if you're nonviolent. It just means they get to push you over even more.
there are more arrests happening, and also the gentleman who was defending in retaliation for what was happening to the black man by the white pontoon people who didn't want to move the boat, hit him with the chair. Now he's arrested. So it continues.
The people defending themselves should not be arrested for
The
self-defense.
ripple effect. But Jonathan, as a journalist, I started asking if what we're hearing, that's coming out of Alabama, if indeed there were issues of, racial slurs or epithets, what happens now? Does the federal government step in? Is this now deemed a hate crime? There's so many tentacles to this. This is not just a cultural moment. This is one of those moments that is one of those markers in history.
Well, in April, to that point, the moment I started taking, I saw the video, but then the reactions to the video and all the memes, all the social media posts, it took me back. I don't think I've seen anything like this since the OJ verdict, when you had this huge divide in the country over folks looking at the same event and coming to different conclusions and seeing it completely differently. Although I would argue that with this event, the divide isn't as stark, because I think we've lived through a lot since OJ, where there are white people who looked at that and they're also like, oh, hell no.
Oh, hell no. Jonathan, even the allies understand. The white boaters in the pontoon were told or asked numerous times through the loudspeaker and even in person, can you move? And they refused. So the co-captain went to make an attempt to move, and then he was jumped by bunches of people. And this was that moment where you say, I am my brother's keeper. No, I am my brother. People saw that. Black people saw this and said no. And this happened a day after a Trump rally in Montgomery, right? And then this is happening at a time when we're watching a rise in hate crimes, according to the FBI. This is not what Tim Scott says. This is not a nation that's racist. There is race that's playing out all throughout this whole brawl on August 5th. But at issue really is, I am my brother's keeper. I'm not going to let you do this. As the climate is rising racially with racial tensions, I'm not going to let you hurt this man who's doing his job. And Black people did not stand by, but there are consequences to standing by and helping this Black man who was being beaten. And God knows what else would have happened if no one stopped it.
They would have probably beaten him to death because they're racist, fascist pieces of trash who hate people for their skin tone and think they're better than them just because they're white and stupid.
But then here's the next part. It kept going. That's the problem. It kept going. So I am my brother's keeper is now getting the consequences of arrests and charges.
Right. And April, I am really glad that you are.
Honestly, if I was a part of that and I got arrested for defending that dude, I wouldn't care. I would be like, yeah, I'm going to jail because I beat down a racist.
Are making that point, particularly after your sit down with Bernice King, the daughter of the late Martin Luther King, whose whole mission was nonviolent protests to achieve the goals of African Americans. And as much as this is a cultural moment, and a significant cultural moment where we're all having a good time with the chair memes and the hats, that, to your point, the tentacles stretching out from this event are real and are going to have consequences for all involved. April Ryan, as always, thank you very much.